Greetings everyone and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarrus, with me as always is the man who needs WD-40 for his chair, Lightning Dragon.
I actually found the WD-40 in one of my boxes, so I'm actually probably going to be using that to de-squeak the chair here soon.
Give them a demonstration.
It's hard to hear, but yeah, it's there.
It's there. Now this week, CIG has updated the 3.5 roadmap. Creation of mineral refinement facilities. Comma Ray's update. Discovering collection points of liquid or gas.
Well, we don't have to discover any gas with you around.
Shut up. Expansion of the cargo system to include different crates. Data running. Long-range deep space scanning.
Data running would be fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, the deep space scanning? Yeah, I mean, I had like 3 exploration ships alone.
Yeah.
And if you pair that with like the liquid and gas and starfare and the refinement of minerals with mining, this seems like a lot of the deeper parts of non-combat gameplay.
It's pretty much what we wanted with 3.2, I believe.
Yeah. But this should open up a nice circle of harvest, refine, sell. It should open up a lot of different kind of gameplay and spread people out a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
FPS and pilot AI personalities. And that means basically non-combat as well. The 890 jump. The Banner Defender. And some new FPS weapons, the Coda, the Lumen 5, and the Firestorm. And I have no idea what those are.
I thought the Firestorm was that shotgun they were talking about.
It might be, yeah. There wasn't any pictures on the production thing, it just kind of showed a generic gun.
Yeah, it sounds so familiar though. It reminds me of the shotgun. I of course could be wrong, I'm just going off memory.
This week on Around the Verse, it was kind of mostly focused on character creation, but there were some other little bit of news snippets in there, so let's go over that. Now, due to the feedback from last month's backer survey, gameplay quality is being prioritized. Upgrades to ship weapons and component configurations will affect gameplays of things like overheating and system failures from factors such as wear, tear, and component quality. Playing with friends, assisting and communicating with other players, along with quantum linking and new and expanded service beacons are being implemented in response to this feedback.
Trade money, baby.
Yeah, trading money will be a big deal because I tend to play or have the ability to play a lot more than, say, my brother, and I would love to be able to just hand him a pile of cash so he can start doing some cargo runs right next to me.
Yeah, or buy some armor, or buy a gun, or, whatever.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did show off the first footage of mining. It was kind of cool because they show what happens when you overheat an asteroid and it explodes. Along with just general mining, of course, as well. But it's nice to see this.
Fire when ready.
Well, it's nice to see this coming along because your biggest ship, of course, is the Orion.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and even though this is probably only going to work on the Prospector initially, you're more than welcome to borrow mine just to get the feel for it.
Hey, I hope they give me a rental because I have the big brother. Or the gigantic brother, I guess.
That's fair enough. Yeah, they really should. Absolutely.
Yeah. It seems weird that I don't, but I guess if the systems aren't in play, why would they?
I think most of the times when you have a large ship, they tend to give you another large ship as kind of
I already own a Connie, though. Maybe that's why I have the Starfare, because I think I can spawn the Starfare.
That might be why. So yeah, this is looking really good, and I look forward to getting out there and cracking open some asteroids.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Now, as I stated, the rest of the show, for the most part, was about character customization. Now, doing some thinking about this, it's kind of clear to me, when you start having content drought like this, it tells me that Evo Cati is probably a couple weeks out from being dropped. We're getting towards that time period where 3.2 would start being tested. So I think they're just holding back information until they get to the point where they can nail down exactly what's going to be in 3.2 for certain.
Because they love their big announcements.
They do. They love that too. So basically, we just have to stay tuned and wait and see what exactly is going to be finalized in 3.2. But please be the data calling, because game performance, so important.
Yeah, it's getting pretty hard to play right now.
Very, very hard. This week's Reverse the Verse was called Hanging with the Audio Team. It's about an hour long. And for any audiophiles out there who would love to know more about how sounds are created and put into the game, check it out. If not, wait till next week. Now, before we get into the calling all devs, I want to talk a little bit about customization and why it's so important to a game. Now, this is a subject, Lightning, that you have a lot of passion about. We got into a long conversation with it the other day.
Yeah, it kind of came from BattleTech, which is coming out today, I guess. Right?
Oh yeah.
And you and I were talking about you were talking about your board game experience and the different MechWarrior games we have played. I played a ton of MechWarrior 3, where you mostly played like MechWarrior 4, and I think you said you played some of the earlier ones as well.
I played pretty much all the MechWarriors up to Clan Ghost Bear.
Yeah.
Where basically they started off, the first mission was you on a moon with you got like I think it was like maybe it was a 75-ton mech, maybe even less than that, and there was no cover, and it was you versus like 8 mechs or something, and it was like, and the AI never really missed in that game, so it was you couldn't separate them out. They would just all pound on you and you would die, and I was like, who designed this mission? And I never played it again.
Yeah, so one of the things that I loved so much about MechWarrior 3, because I believe I knew someone who had MechWarrior 1 and 2. And man, this goes back to when I was in grade school. It was a long time ago. And so
I
when
played MechWarrior in college.
Yeah. So when MechWarrior 3 came out, I must have seen it when I was at a store or something, and I was like, oh man, I remember one of my friends had this game, and it was really cool. And so I picked it up, and I'd spend so much time customizing, tweaking, playing with different mechs, different kinds of weapons, and all that kind of loadout. And trust me, this is Star Citizen related, but there's quite a bit of setup to this, and I want to have lots of explanation here. So with the new BattleTech game coming out, I was really interested to see if they offered that same level of customization with MechWarrior 3, for example, because that's the one I played the most of. And they didn't really show that, and there was a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, well, you have these fitted loadouts, and they have different weapon types. It's like, well, if there's a lot of different fittings, I'd be okay with that, but I hated the Mech Assault game for Xbox. I think it was Xbox... I don't even think it was Xbox 360. It might have been 360. But it was so arcadey, and all of the heart I felt got removed. There was a lot of different unit types. I mean, there was infantry, there was tanks, there was helicopters. I mean, they had everything to make it a BattleTech game, but it just didn't feel the same as like MechWarrior 3. You just like, this is the mech you want to pick, and that's it, And so the original stuff they were talking about with BattleTech, it sounded like they were going to do that, which is like, well, it kind of disappoints me. And it's very similar in combat-wise to XCOM, which I have XCOM. If I want to play that, I could. But I'm very happy to see that it has got a lot more going for it than what they initially showed off. And this level of customization reminded me of a game I spent maybe hundreds of hours, literally, just customizing. And that was Armored Core 4. And to a lesser extent, Armored Core 4 Answer. I didn't own that game, but I rented it, and I played it like for the full 3 days nonstop. And in these games, you had different leg fittings, or like leg parts, and that affected your total weight you could have, like all your guns, your armor, your generator, your boosters, everything. And then you had like your chest piece, and they affected different things. A lot of it was like a shield or an armor rating. And the more you play with it, you can tweak it. And one of the things in Armored Core is you can fly, but you're limited by your total energy pool and the energy released by your thrusters. So if you have very, very efficient thrusters and a really powerful main generator, you can fly for a really, really long time. And that made me think of Star Citizen, being able to customize your parts and things. And that's what I feel is kind of missing. It's just kind of like it's Mech Assault right now. This is a long and weird conversation here as I bounce back and forth. But right now, Star Citizen feels like Mech Assault. It's that arcade game you can jump in, play. It has all the bells and whistles you want, but that there's no depth to it. And is it 3.2?
There are some part switch outs you can do right now in stores, but it's like
very basic.
Very basic, but it also feels like, for the most part, unless you go to a spreadsheet, there's really no real way to know exactly what the difference between X and Y is. And now I have so many ships that I just rip parts off of this ship and slap it to that ship, or weapons or whatever. But for the most part, also with the with the resets, which I get because they're doing development, that's fine. But and how hard it is to make money, you put all that together, and it feels like, for the most part, unless you have parts to swap out from other ships, you're kind of just basically kind of stuck with what you have.
Now, in 3.2, we are getting Item System 2.0, aren't we?
That's the plan anyway.
That's the hope. So, with this is, I think it fits better with Armored Core, though it's been a long time since I played that game. But when we were talking about this, it reminded me of the amount of time you can spend tuning, and like, oh, if I use this type of thruster, it's more efficient. If I have this kind of generator, it gives me more power, but it's heavier, so it's going to reduce my maneuvering and stuff. And I linked you a couple videos of people, tuning mechs, very basic tuning. I mean, I'd spend like 2 or 3 hours tuning something. I'm sure you can sympathize with that with some other games.
Oh yeah.
So that I think will make a big difference, but at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because if you allow an insane amount of customization, that you can't balance anything against anything else. So
that's
you need to have that baseline.
Because there was a mech game I really loved on the Xbox 360, which was called Chrome Hounds. And I felt it was a great game, but you could do anything with anything. You'd see people having like just a mech of connectors with like T-arms with guns at the end, so it was really hard to hit the torso, those kind of things. So there was these things where the customization got a little out of hand, but the pacing of it was really good, and it really felt like the old Mech Warrior series. Unfortunately, it's a game that the servers were shut down long ago. Don't even buy the game. If you see it in the bargain bin, you'll never be able to play it except for the 6 tutorial missions, and then you're done. But for what it was I felt it was a brilliant mech game, with the exception of maybe needing a bit more limitations on customization. But that's also important. Once again, one thing I always say when it comes to game development, it's not only what you can do, it's what you can't do that defines a game.
Yeah, so, I mean, Item System 2.0 it's huge. And not only for the customization part. I mean, we harp on this so much. I feel like I'm repeating myself again here. It's the ability for everything to work together as a unified system, which gives you that limits. You can do this much, but you can't do that much. And I think that will help bring the ability to balance the game. And even if things are like, okay, this is just a baseline thing, maybe we don't get extra thrusters, we don't get extra power plants, we don't get different shields. But just having that in there will make it so we can work towards a real game. And I'm going to go back to Armored Core for a second here, and then we'll probably wrap up. But one of the things that I had like 2 different types of mechs or whatever I would use in Armored Core, and that was one that was incredibly heavy and tanky, because I like tanky, and one of them that was as heavy as it needed to be. And I say that because it's kind of like how Star Citizen is right now. I had the biggest power plant and the lightest mech parts except for the legs, because I needed to have, certain kinds of weapons, and the weapons have certain weight. So the legs were just heavy enough to equip the weapons I wanted. And I had supercharged boosters. The boosters were so powerful, and I had so much spare power, it depleted like half of my power grid, and I'd boost like 200 meters left or right when I did this. And it was insanely good at avoiding shots, but it was so fast, I was disorientated after doing the little quick jumps to the left or right, like side strafing, but it was like having your main thruster turn on for a split second at full power. Yeah. There's no throttling up. I mean, it was just, boom, you're 200 meters to the left, or boom, you're 200 meters to the right. And it was really good at not being hit. So it didn't need to be as tanky, but it was very, very hard to control, and it took a long time to figure out how to play that right. And I when I was thinking about that when we were talking about it, it's like, that's what Star Citizen is kind of right now. Everything is just kind of over the top.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the situation like for when most people fly, like say, let's pick a fighter, let's say the Hornet. They're going to go out there, and it's the best thing you can do is to load everything as the same weapon. Now, with Item System 2.0 and having power limitations, thruster overheating, and things like this, it should make it so hopefully you'll see like a Super Hornet out there, for example, where it's got half its loadout as physical and half its loadout as energy. Because if it fires all energy, it's going to not only run out of power to fire those guns, but it's going to have to pull from other systems. Like you may start dropping its shields. It may start having the engine be able to put out less thrust. Same thing with the thrusters. So you may want to look at your loadout at that point in time and go, I only want to have, let's say, 3 energy weapons, and the rest are going to be physicalized because they don't draw the same power pool. And that's a part of customization. Of course, the rest, my big taste is also being able to choose colors for your vehicle. And I don't expect a full-blown paint system, but at some point down the road, I would love to be able to at least have a different color on my ship than somebody else. Like if you have a skin that they sell in the store, like a pattern, which would be fine. I guess once again, I'm not against microtransactions if you know what you're getting. Like if they want to sell like you know for example, they have the Operation Pitchfork skin, right? So
or just camo.
Yeah, or a camo or something like that, and then you say, okay, here's color 1, here's color 2, here's color 3, boom, and now you've got your ship looking a little bit more the way you want it to look, and you can differentiate. So customization is not only is it important for balance, but it's also important for keeping players around. Like Warframe is another good example. A lot of people get to the high-end tier, they do what's called fashion frame, where they've played so much, they've unlocked a lot of stuff. Every 2 weeks there's a vendor that comes out and may sell maybe a new part that you can add onto your Warframe, a new kind of cosmetic. And so you have all these cosmetics over time, and you can start swapping them out and changing colors. And so your whatever looks different than this guy's whatever, and it adds that kind of that this is mine that keeps people playing the game. Time to break down calling all devs. Question: what about the development of non-combat AI? Answer: 3.5 or 3.6 is the time period when they're looking at having AI that does normal everyday activities. That's going to add a lot to the universe. Question: what's the long-term plan with lockers and weapon racks in the PU? Will they remain relevant with the Mobiglass app? Answer: loadouts will be able to be saved in the Mobiglass app, but you will still be able to go up and interact with something on a rack to equip it. I found that to be odd phrasing. You know, it's like, you know, to be able to have pre-made settings is fine. Like if I'm in a room and all that stuff's in the room, I don't have a problem with being able to equip it. But like, give me an example. Right now in the PU, I can buy 40 grenades, and maybe I can only wear 2 or 3 of them, right? And you're out there and you take cover and someone's firing at you and you throw each your grenade. You're like, okay, inventory, grenade. Okay, I'm ready again. I don't want to see that kind of thing brought in, because I know that they talked about initially your equipment will have different pockets and different sizes. So loadouts are fine. I see that as being a kind of thing that would work better in Arena Commander to a large extent. The persistent universe, they talk about immersion and fidelity and things like that. Like to be able to equip something, you should be able to have access to walk over and pick it up. That should be in the persistent universe. Either it's in your actual inventory or it's actually in front of you to interact with. The quick loadouts, that seems like an Arena Commander thing to me.
I mean, I could see it as if you were summoning your ship and you were like, I want my Hornet Ghost with, you know, stealth loadout as opposed to combat loadout.
Yeah, but it needs to be in your hangar with that equipment there. It just can't be like.
But I mean, like when you initially summon the thing, right?
Yeah,
you know, it's not just sitting out there and like, I want to change my loadout, and then poof.
Right, that's why I said, like, if you were in your apartment and all that stuff that you had selected was in the apartment, I have no problems with a quick change out.
Yeah, because a while ago, I mean, geez, it was like maybe 2 or 3 years now, they were saying they wanted to make it so if you changed your loadout or like your armor or anything like that, you actually had an in-game wait period as people actually came out to like repair it or swap components out. Mm-hmm. And so like you'd like, okay, well, you know, for example, my Hornet Ghost's been all shot up. Well, let's, you know, jump in a Connie or something and do a couple salvage runs while that's being fixed up, right?
Or maybe that's the only ship you have. It's like, oh, it'll take a half an hour or maybe, you know, whatever to fix your ship. And in the meantime, you go around, look for missions, do some shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the wait time, it's also a consequence as well. I mean, it's not just the money, but it's also like, I'm out of commission for a little while. This isn't going to be hopefully a, you know, I mean, in any sense of the words, that respawn and charge back in kind of thing. That the whole mechanic of repair and wait time is important to keep people from just charging right back in.
It's a consequences thing, like you said.
Exactly.
You know, you do something stupid and something stupid happens to you, and, you know, unless you have lots of ships, I mean, eventually you'll probably burn through all of them if you're just a terrible pilot or you charge into combat all the time. And
you'll get a call from Lloyd's of London asking if you would like to actually get their services.
Yeah.
Question: when will we see updates to ground and air race tracks in the PU or Arena Commander? Answer: they already tried implementing tracks in 3.0, but the planets change due to updates. Until they get to a more finished state with planets, making tracks on planets are kind of placed on hold. What they have done is try to create a scramble race with random checkpoints. Now they're trying to balance these races so that it's just not dominated by the fastest ships. How it works is basically you fly to a checkpoint, and however that's going to be, whether a certain amount of time being within that zone or whatnot, or an instant pass-through, they'll determine, but that checkpoint despawns. No one else has to go there. Another checkpoint will pop up, and everyone can head to that location. So sometimes, depending upon where the checkpoint spawns and where you are, it sometimes might be advantageous to bypass a checkpoint. Like, if you're down on a planet and the next one spawns back up in space and everyone's in space, they're going to get to it before you're going to be able to get off that planet. And you may fall behind, depending upon where the next one spawned. But, they're talking about how they wanted to make sure that the fastest ships just didn't dominate. That's going to be... I don't think anyone can expect to go in there with a Starfarer, though, and have a fair chance. I would hope not, otherwise something's seriously wrong.
If it's random, though, I mean, really the fastest ship would win, unless they're huge distances between these waypoints.
Yeah, and of course, also going to be probably quantum driving between planets as well. I mean, you'll jump from this planet and then go down there, and then maybe their next point is on the same planet. Maybe it's in an asteroid ring outside of Yellow. Who knows? Now they are looking at adding a team down the road that will focus on Arena Commander and Star Marine modes, but that's not set in stone yet. But I'm all for them having any sort of teams that are going to be working on game mechanics that are focused just on things like that.
Like flight.
Exactly. Question: will we be able to discover and bookmark locations that we find so we can navigate back to them? Answer: yes. Initial implementation will most likely be a short-term marker, which will be useful for meeting up or setting a location for that session. Now, down the road, he said that he would like to see that if you had locations once the maps are more permanent, that you can actually sell those to other players with all the things that you found to make money. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's great. I think it's like when you do exploration, and let's say I'm out there in my 600i, and I came across, by happenstance, a large ore deposit, and I mark it. I may want to sell that to a prospector and make some cash. So I absolutely love that idea. I am absolutely excited for it, and that will bring even more focus into exploration. Question: when can we expect to see some of the 2019 roadmap? Answer: they plan to show the roadmap for the next 4 quarters. It's a rolling roadmap that is updated on Fridays, and it currently has been updated to show the first quarter of 2019, which is 3.5 that we just talked about earlier in the video. Lastly, this week we're taking a break from our other standard shows. And there's a good reason for that.
Unfortunately.
As we mentioned earlier, BattleTech's coming out this week.
Yeah,
that sounds like a weird reason to skip out any other shows, but we are going to put up gameplay of that, because just as a personal thing here, the last time I played a BattleTech game was 1998's Mech Commander. I played the pen and paper board game style game back when high school and early college. And that was before the year 2000. We're talking like maybe 1996, 97, 94, in that time frame. And the reason I bought Mech Commander in 1998 is that when I looked at the box cover art, back in the day there wasn't a whole lot of ways you could get information on games because everything was through magazines. I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, turn-based. It's going to be like the board game but in a computer. It was basically an RTS. And there really hasn't been any ambitious drive to make the board game come to life, but basically there hasn't been any effort to do that outside of like something like Mech Warrior, where you're sitting inside of one of them, but nothing like this. And the second that came out Kickstarter, I backed it. I mean, I was excited as all heck. So that's coming out, and I'm going to be playing with LD. We're going to go ahead and record footage. We're going to give you our thoughts of the game after our initial playing sessions. We'll talk about it. And we'll talk about other things during the course too. We tend to talk about when we do these other broadcasts, we talk about a bunch of other stuff. We just don't sit there and go, okay, now press this button or something. No, we talk about news, we talk about Star Citizen. So whatever crosses our minds, that's what our other shows are for. So there's not, even the playlist this week, it's all going to be overridden. It's BattleTech week. This is a celebration of me waiting. Haven't played a BattleTech game in 20 years. Think about that. 1998 to 2018. I have been waiting for this. This is happening. Okay?
MechWarrior 3 was released in '99. I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah. So this is happening. So if it's not your thing, don't feel obligated to watch the shows. Never feel obligated here to do that, okay? And that's fine. Because, you know, like I subscribe, for example, Mingles with Jingles. I watch 2 of his types of videos. Mingles with Jingles on Mondays, and it's Why Do You Have to Be Mad? Everything else I skip, but I love the guy, okay? So if it's not your thing, I totally get it, but it's happening. So if not, if you want to bypass all that and wait till the next BlastCast next week, we will see you then. But in the meantime, it's game on.
It's MechWarrior time. Or Mech Battletech Edition, whatever.
Later, everyone.
Bye-bye.